Hey there, everybody, it's BrawlFan1, and today I thought I'd do something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but either I would just not have the time to, or I would just discourage myself from it because quite frankly, I don't think I'm that good at it. But regardless, today I thought I'd make a tutorial. Specifically, I thought I'd make a tutorial regarding on how I make the rigs that I've been using in the recent Super Smash Adventures part in Adobe Flash. So now I'm sure that those of you that have seen part 3 of episode 7 of Super Smash Adventures, you've seen that how a bunch of the characters, predominantly red, they're animated. Are animated much differently than what I've done in the past. Well, and I know a lot of you have pointed this out in the comments and were really either curious about it or just surprised to see me do it at all. But that was a type of what we call sprite rigging. Now, what I'm going to show you guys today is how I set up those sprite rigs. So now, honestly, I love doing these sprite rigs, because for the longest time, ever since I started Smash Adventures, I always knew at some point I'd use certain characters that I knew didn't really have that great of sprite sheets available, and I was always so worried on how I was going to do those characters, especially red. But the rigging was just a great answer to it, and it's not hard whatsoever. It is a little tedious and a little time consuming to get started at first, but once you do get it set up, it's the greatest thing ever. You have so much freedom to do with your characters all of a sudden. It's just awesome. So now, today, showing you how I'm going to do these rigs, I thought I'd use the character Ridley. Now, as I'm sure you noticed, the colors of Ridley here may look a little different than probably what you're used to seeing on Smash Adventures. Well, that's because this is actually a newly recolored sheet of Ridley that I went ahead and did myself for a couple of reasons. For one thing, I was actually getting ready to plan on rigging up Ridley here anyway. This form of Ridley on this sprite sheet. This sprite sheet. This is the original. This is the Ridley sheet that comes from Metroid Zero Mission, and as you can see, the body parts are all separated here. They're all just, and that's a really important thing when it comes to rigging. And I'll get to more of a factor of why here in a bit, but as you can see, they're all separated here. Whereas on the sprite sheet that I have been using for Ridley, which was recolored by Flood Infected Ridley, they're all put together, and that's why for the most part Ridley's always been so static in Super Smash Adventures. Why he never really moves aside from a couple of edits that I've did with his legs or his tail, and honestly those are pretty sloppy if I'm quite frankly honest. On top of that, when I was planning on when I was thinking about going in to tear this one apart the best I could, taking a closer look at it, this is honestly kind of sloppily recolored. You can still see bits of the gray that were on the original Metroid Zero Mission sprite. Some of the purple just doesn't make sense. In general, it's no offense to a Flood Infected Ridley, this could have been done a little bit better of a job. And I thought about going in and fixing those bits of recolors, but I thought instead I just go ahead and make my own, which is what I went ahead and did. And the colors are different because this is the Ridley that's based on what Ridley looks like in Brawl. This one, as you can see, is actually based on the color scheme of Ridley from Metroid Other M, or as he actually appeared in Smash Bros. 4. So I went ahead and did that, and it does look. And I did it on the original sprite sheet that I just showed you before, the original rip by one Gus print. So I went through that, and now I'm able to properly get these get it set up. So now, why breaking the body parts is such an important factor is because that's like the sole key to rigging. What I do is I'm going to show you through the process. So what you want to do is you make a new symbol. You want it to be a graphic. And now for this symbol, so I'm going to go ahead and do Ridley's head. So I'm going to title this Ridley Head. And you want to make a bunch of different keyframes in the symbol. You can press F7 to create a bunch of blank keyframes. So now I'm going to go ahead and one by one put each of the bits of Ridley's head in. Each of the sprites of Ridley's head into the sprite sheet. And now I'm sure you also see this little cursor right here. That's the center of the sprite sheet. And that's most of the time anyway, unless Flash decides otherwise. That's generally where the I guess where this little doodad right here will show up normally on this page. What this is, wherever this is how the sheet will turn. That's effectively the the middle of the rotating point. So you want to make sure that wherever it is you think predominantly the body part's going to turn, you want it to center on that area before you and you want to do that with the very first piece on the keyframe before you start anything else. Otherwise, moving them all one by one and trying to center them all again will become very tedious. So now, just one by one, just put each new head on each different one. I'm actually going to do this one first. Now, for obviously, now it always doesn't hurt to make sure that that they're lined up proper. So, like in this case, I made sure that the top jaw was the same. So when we go through the keyframes, it's only the bottom jaw that moves, which is generally how you want things. Because when you talk, it's your bottom jaw that's doing all the moving. Your top jaw doesn't move at all. So then, grab this last head, plop that right about there. Then I'm also going to go ahead and get these heads down here. These are the heads without jaws. Like they have the one jaw graphic right there, which is actually pretty nifty. So that'll make me that'll allow me to be able to do a lot more jaw poses with Ridley here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make sure that oops, wrong one. This this jaw aligns with the first one, so it's right about there. Yep. And now what I'm also going to go ahead and do is, as you can see, there are a bunch of different sprites for blinking whenever Ridley looks up. So what I'll do is I'll take this first one, and then I'm going to go to this. Oh, actually, I'm already right there. So I'm going to press F5 1, 2, 3 times. And I'm gonna highlight the three extra frames, and then press F6 to turn them into individual keyframes. And then I'm going to put the new eyelid over this one right here. And I will do that for each subsequent keyframe. Make sure I'm on the right one. Yep. There we go. So now we got Ridley blinking here. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and do the same for this one right here. All right. So those are all set up, and then we don't need these extra 2 frames. So just hold Shift and press F5 to delete them. All right, and then for the bottom jaw for that, I'm going to go ahead and take this bottom jaw, and I'm not going to put it into the head sprite, but instead I'm going to make a whole new symbol, call it Ridley jaw. Actually, no, I'm going to call it Ridley head jaw. I'm going to make sure that's put right onto the cursor. There we go. And plop. All right. So that's pretty much the process of how to get the body parts set up. So now, what I went ahead and did was I went ahead and did all the other body parts ahead of time. So now what you're probably wondering is why I'm putting each sprite into one symbol, whereas normally most people would just make individual symbols for each sprite. Because normally what happens is if you were to put the sprite onto the timeline and then let it play, it'll do this. We don't want that to happen exactly. That's normally what happened because that's normally what happened with graphics. So, but there is a cool little trick to it. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to show you the actual rigging process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a whole nother symbol, and this is actually going to be an animated symbol. It's not going to just be a body part. So I'm going to call this Ridley idle. So this will just be what Ridley does when he's just standing there. So this is going to go right here, not in the body part sheet. So I'm going to make a couple of layers just to get started on. I'm going to need a lot more than this, but this is, like I said, it'll just be a start. So I'm going to start, normally I like to start with the body, so I'll take Ridley's body right here, and yeah, just the body. Actually no, I need body with wings. There we go. Like I made two, as you can see, I made 2 separate ones between just body and then body with wings and then the wings by themselves. Of course, in this case, it's just the one wing. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get this other wing separated. Quick post edit. Turns out that way is actually just literally flipping the wings upside down like this. I know that sounds really dumb, but if you look at how they're set up right here, that's literally what they did. So there you go. So then we got the wing. So now we need his neck. Grab a neck, just plop it right there. Then we'll get his head. We'll plop that right on top of it. Okay, then we'll get his arm. So we have the top of the arm. Actually, I think now I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm doing, because obviously that doesn't look too good right there. So now there's actually a nifty little trick that not a whole lot of people really know about in Flash. So what you can do is when you have a graphic selected, you see something here called looping. So if you click on this, you have loop, play once, and single frame. When it's checked on loop, obviously it'll just be playing over and over again. If you hit play once, though, what it'll do is it'll literally play through the cycle once, and that's it. It'll stop there. But if you hit the single frame option, it'll stay paused on whatever frame it's set to, which in this case right now it's 1. But if I were to hit 2, now it's on frame 2, and actually it looks like that I didn't take the right one regardless. So there you go. This is the one I wanted. Top. There we go. That's Ridley's shoulder right there. And then this goes right there. So now what's also important when keeping that in mind is you want to make sure that when you're having them still, you want to make sure that they're all set to single frame. Now in this case, actually, I'm going to go ahead and have his wings come down. And up, we have another problem there. Now this is the reason why I had the wings separated. So what I'll do here is I'll take this wing graphic, make sure it matches the one that's shown there, and then place that above. There we go, easy fix. All right, so now let's finish up his hand. So we need another layer. And then we get the hand graphics. Now goes right there. Perfect. And I'll go ahead and speed up through the rest of it. Okay, so now this is the general idea of what I have for Ridley. So now as you can see, there are a couple of goof ups here, like the wing graphic. Unfortunately, how I have it set up for the body is not in the correct spot. Obviously, the arm should be underneath the wing here, like between the wing and the body. So I'll go back and fix that at a later point, but not at this moment. I will go back and fix that. In fact, you know what? Instead, let me go ahead and remove this body graphic. In its place, I'll just put this body. Just pop it right there. So that the other wing on the other side, I'll get to that at another point. Just kind of ignore it for now. In which case, so now this and same goes for the tail. The tail is going to be a completely different process. Because as you can see, it's this is just a single piece of the tail, and this is going to be a lot of different tails connected to the tail tip. So that'll be another thing that I'll work on at another point. But for right now, this is just the basic of what we have for Ridley. So now, as you can see, this is a fairly familiar pose. The one, that like I said, was the pretty static one that I, got kind of bored of. But now, what's cool about this is because this is the big reason why I wanted to put each of the body parts into, like each of the same body part sprites into their own symbols. Like all the head sprites into one symbol, all the bodies and wings in one symbol, all the arms, all the significant arm parts. Because now what I can do is I can create one new keyframe for everything here. Oh, and you see something that happened. I didn't turn the loop off of this one, so I got to do that. There we go. So now what I can do is I can literally bend Ridley to do anything I want him to at this point. So now, since this is just an idle pose, I don't need him doing that much. So what I will do is though, let me pause his legs there for a bit. Also, kind of close his wing out. His body. You also don't be afraid to name the layers, each of the body parts. If you want to, if that'll make it a little easier for you. I personally tend to choose not to, if only because there will be times where I'll end up switching layers of body parts. Around, and that can make things confusing in that regard. So now what I'll do is I'll select all the body parts that I want to move up, and I'll simply move them up just like that. And then move this up a little bit. Actually, something else I completely forgot to mention. So let me go back before I do any of that. Something you do also want to make sure you keep in mind, especially if you're going to be tweening these rigs. You want to make like those cursors that I brought up to you before. Like whenever you select the transform tool, these cursors will appear. Like I said, and for some reason this one ended up over here. You want to make sure that they're on the points where the body parts connect to the body. Think of them as joints. It's like in this case, the neck should actually be right here. The head should be right here. I don't know why. I made so much emphasis on that cursor, on the cursor part initially. I don't know why I didn't bother actually doing it like it should have been. Flash isn't an exact science. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work the way you want it to. And yeah. Okay. So now let me lift all these up just slightly. Don't need them up that much. There we go. Hide the wing again. And I'll just oh, nope, that's the waist. Just slowly move this one up. Stretch this one out just a tiny bit. Oh, actually, first let me do that, and then stretch it out. There we go. Leave the foot where it is. Same for this one, but this one will be a little easier. So instead I just do this and kind of slightly turn it. I'm going to bring this over here real quick, turn it that way, and then bring it back up. Yep, it didn't do its thing. There we go. Cool. So something kind of like that. So, and then for the arms, let me select all the arms, and then when you select multiple symbols at once, it'll create with the transform tool on. It'll make like their own personal temporary cursor. So what I'll do is I'll do that. Turn all the arms just like such. Then I'll go down and kind of skeleton my way through them. There it is. Do the same for this arm. There we go, something along those lines. And then let's also do something for the neck, because he's going up. So the neck and the head kind of would probably go down a little bit. So they're probably like this. And we'll turn his head like that. There we go. So something kind of like that. And then we have to do the same for, and then his wing. So let's do something a little different. So when he goes up, what I can do is I can make a new keyframe. Maybe not a keyframe. Maybe just a slight little transform. There we go. Something kind of like that. So there we go. So something along those lines. And now for this in particular idle pose, what I'll do is I'll extend the keyframes out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy them all. I'm going to paste them all down here. Then I'm going to move them up. Delete all these extra ones out because Flash is dumb. Then I'll do the same thing for this side. A bunch of keyframes there. Then I select them all once again. Well, actually, easier to do this. There we go. And then classic tween. And look at that. Do the same for this side. Nope. You see something weird going on with the leg here, right? Yeah, I think I know what happened there because I messed with that one cursor. So that's a simple fix, but that does require me to delete all these, but that's no problem whatsoever. So what I'll do to fix that is I'll just I'll delete this leg, recreate it. And then I'll just manually turn it this way. There we go. Yeah, a lot of these things probably would require you to definitely look at these things with your own eyesight, and kind of judge it yourself personally, and instead of just trying to rely on the program to do it for you. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of stress if you just choose not to rely on the program. Create classic tween. Create classic tween. Yep. Where are you going, timeline? There we go. And there we go. It looks a lot better, a whole lot better. So that's just a very basic. That's just a very basic thing you can do for rigging. Like obviously something very simple. Now, of course, there are lots of other possibilities that you could do with these things. Like that's just something as simple as simple as an idle pose. Like now you could do something else a little more extravagant. Like let's say I'll make Ridley fly, or I can make him walk, or let's do walking. Like I don't want to get I don't want to make too many of these to get too far into it, because like I said, I gotta fix that issue with his wings. So once again, let's take his body. The body is always usually a good starting point. Also, it's generally a good idea to make sure that you do all the cursors while you're setting them all up, so that way you don't have to go in and do them right before you animate. Okay, so now I kind of have a starting basis set up for a Ridley walking animation. So now pretty much if you've taken any animation class, if you haven't, I really suggest it, especially if you're in animation. But now this is just a simple point of really just reenacting the basic walking cycle. So really, what I should do here is I'm going to start Ridley off in a very simple pose for a walking animation. Something kind of like that. I'm going to stretch that leg just a little bit more. Where'd it go? Me get rid of this arm real quick. Or better yet, so I know where the arms still are. There we are. Freeze them. Where'd you go, leg? There it is. Just right about there. And kind of also bring these arms in just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So now I'm gonna create the whoops. Saw what I did wrong there, folks. I forgot to unloop a bunch of these. There we go. Okay. So first, I'm gonna stretch this leg out. Actually, hold on. Let me fix that first. Looks a little bit ugly. There we go. Okay. So now I'm gonna stretch this leg out. As such. Again, let me hide the arms. Just they're out of the way. Like obviously, this is a bit harder to see because Ridley's all purple, but what you gonna do? There we go. And then let me hide those legs real quick as well, so I can get to these legs. And they go backwards. Get to that. The foot does something kind of like this. And just to make sure that Ridley isn't static the whole time, as you can see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move his whole body down. Obviously, people bob up and down whenever they walk. There we go, something akin to that. Let me also move this up on that. And this is kind of just the basic for animation, guys. Like, it takes a lot of tweaking. So let's foot forward. So now we're going to take this arm and pull it back. So kind of like this. Now Ridley's Ridley, as I was trying to say before, Ridley's a big hulking monster. So of course he's going to have very strong struts. Pull this arm forward. That's a start. And for the next pose, we get the next extreme, which will be kind of like the second passing, which is where this one will be. So I'm going to lift these back up to match the first one around that area. There we go. The arms come back to the middle, and the legs come back to the middle as they pass. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic extreme part of the walking. Now, what I'm also going to go ahead and do is I'm also going to mess with his neck and wings a little bit, because obviously when he's bouncing like that, especially with that long of a neck, like his head shouldn't be static like this. It should be bouncing a lot more. So what I'll do is I'll kind of do this, then raise his head up, and kind of tilt it just a little bit. And then the wings I'll actually mess with a little bit later. Well, I can mess with them now, actually. Here, let's see. Maybe like they're down when he's this high, and then when he goes down for his struts, they come up a little bit. So kind of like that. A lot of it's about inertia and gravity, guys. There we go. So as you can see, before I forget, let me do the same thing for this side. There we go. As you can see, that looks really wonky. Like that looks like Mario kind of walking. So we obviously don't want that. But like I said, these are just the extreme area, the extremes of it. These are like the most, like these are just the biggest parts. Now we got to add the in betweens. So I'll get back to you on that one. So now what I should also say before real quickly before I should say before I also forget, typically the easiest way, like if you want to kind of like set yourself up a little bit, to get in betweens for animations in Flash, obviously is just like once you do the extremes, is just to create a quick tween. Because like that's an instant in between right there. And obviously that needs some that needs a little bit of tweaking. So like I said, let me do all that first, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright, and there we go. So this is pretty much what I'm talking about in terms of how rigging even makes things like this easier. Because like, here, if I were to put this on the stage now, like check that out. Obviously, it still needs a little bit of tweaking. Like, I don't know, it still seems a little bit fast to me, because, like I said, Ridley's a big character, and and one thing that's important for big characters, you really got to emphasize that weight to their steps, especially when it comes to walking. But in which case, so I'll just show one more quick thing in terms of rigging, and how it just in general, like, rigging makes everything easier. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a quick duplicate of the idle pose, and I call this one Ridley Roar. So what I'll do is I'll delete majority of what I made here for this. Kind of one of the cool benefits of making duplicates is, especially if you want to make duplicates if you want to make animations that rig animations that are seamless from one pose to another, just make a duplicate of one pose at the end of that last pose, and have what you want to do start from the last one. So here, what I'll do is I'll make the extreme of making Ridley roar. So to make Ridley roar, let's do this. Let me freeze his legs real quick. Gonna make him go upright, make him look high and mighty and such. I'm gonna turn his body a little bit as well. Actually, let me do this. Gonna extend out his wings. Let's turn all of his arms. Right, for this one, let's actually let's rotate. Let's actually turn this arm. There we go. So that. We're going to extend his neck out. Let's turn it down, actually. There we go. Then we're going to give him a nice big meaty roar. There we go. Now let me grab his legs. Oops. That was the hand. There we go. Okay, so in this case, I made him a little too high. So that's a simple fix of just bringing him back down. There we go. And do the same thing for this leg, except we change this leg to that one. And I'll also go ahead and flip it. That one I'll keep. Oh, okay, let me hide his hand again. I'll just extend it a little bit. There we go. So that's kind of the starting base for it. So now, obviously, all that stuff are the in-betweens. And I pretty much showed you guys how the in-betweens work with the walking pose. This was mostly just to show how the biggest, like the coolest reason to put multiple sprite frames into individual symbols. Thanks to this guy. Where is he? Hold on. Yeah, thanks to this guy, the looping, and how you can change it and such. It makes that stuff really easy. So that pretty much is the gist of how this works. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and get the other wing in there, and the tail is gonna be a completely different beast. So, but yeah, like expect to see a fully completed Ridley in the upcoming episode of Super Smash Adventures, folks. If you have any questions, or maybe I didn't quite elaborate on something properly that you just don't understand or don't get, please ask away in the comments below. If I get enough questions, I'll gladly make a follow-up video trying to answer anything I can regarding anything I may have missed, or maybe anything I didn't properly elaborate on like I should have. But yeah, that about does it. With that said, this has been Bro Fan 1, and I'll see you guys next time.